Hello, citizens. This is Councilor Gian-Carlo, Ward 9 TV Light. This is an issue that affects all Ward 9 communities and actually all communities in the city of Calgary. And this is a project that's near and dear to my heart. Point 2 of my Great Neighborhoods platform suggests that neighborhoods, communities are not just places, but they're people, and they're the relationship of people to place. And when we talk about people, what we've traditionally thought about are the voters, the people who live there, the people whose address is there, the people who lay their heads there. And in reality, communities are much more complex ecosystems of people. They are the people who live there for sure, but they're also the businesses, and they're also the institutions. And when I talk about institutions, I'm talking about everything from schools and churches to not-for-profits, and of course community associations and other groups, other organized community groups. Now, the idea that I fundamentally believe in, that Great Neighborhoods is working towards, is that every community should work towards a state of completeness, towards a state of great neighborness, of great neighborhoodness, in wherein you've got a healthy, self-sustaining mix of lands, of tax base, of services, and you've got this really ongoing healthy mix of relationships between the people who live there, the businesses that operate there, and the institutions that do their work in the community, specifically in the community, but also serving larger catchment areas. But the idea is that your neighborhood, every neighborhood, is changing constantly. If you look at the history of our neighborhoods, they're histories of change, sometimes physical change, sometimes demographic change. And rather than sort of just be reactive to change, a great neighborhood is a place where everyone comes together, talks about where they've come from, talked about where they're at, and really, rather than reacting to change that comes down the pike, drives the change that makes the most sense. And what makes the most sense? You need to have forums where you can have those kinds of conversations. So I've been working on this project for the last 8 years, and a number of steps led to a broad consensus on council that, this is the kind of work we need to do. We need to recognize that we have an amazing legacy of community representation throughout the city in our community associations. We have a number of other amazing organized community groups that do tremendous work in communities. We have also things like called residents associations. I don't think there are any in Ward 9, but there might be in the future in the Belvedere area structure plan. But a lot of the new communities basically handle the provision of services by establishing residents associations, which levy the residents and take care of amenities like parks and pools and community spaces and clubhouses and stuff like that. And so there's always been this sort of unhealthy tension between community associations and residents associations, and then there's all these other organized community groups. And I think over the years, the tensions between these groups and the recognition that we're not being as efficient or as effective or as collaborative as we can and should be, and the relationship of these groups with the city that serves them and all the city departments has to be better. And finally, about 2 years ago, we reached some broad consensus that we have to do something fundamental to celebrate what we have and then take it to the next level. And around that idea, the Community Representation Framework Task Force was born. It's called a task force, and it's designed to, every task force is designed to acknowledge an opportunity or a problem and to achieve an objective. And the objective of the Community Representation Framework Task Force was to get a bunch of people representing a bunch of different interests in a room, hash everything out, and then ultimately propose a new way forward, a solution, the realization of an opportunity. And to be fair, over the last year and a half, the Community Representation Framework Task Force, which has, it was supposed to have 2 members of council, but council was so passionate about it, we ended up putting 4 members of council on it. And then one of those members of council, Councillor Jim Stevenson, who has, the legacy of being, before he became a city councillor for many years, he was not only the president of a community association, but he was also the president of a residents association, so he understood the tension between that. He has left City Council, but he is staying on. And so we have a sort of a citizen member now in Jim Stevenson representing a fifth council perspective. We have members of the development and building community who are building new communities and laying out space for residents associations and community associations, and they realize they're not sort of delivering those in as collaborative and effective a way as possible because of the rules and regulations. Obviously, lots of representation from community associations, people from individual community associations, and representation from the Federation of Calgary Communities, the overarching umbrella organization that supports our community associations. We have representation from the University of Calgary, and then representation from city administration. And this group of people has, stormed and then finally normed to a point where we're ready to go out and engage the community on where we're at and where we should go. Because the ultimate goal is to basically engage community over the next several months and then bring back a report in the winter, and then in 2019 to start to pilot what next generation community associations or community councils could and would and should look like, and how they can be more broadly inclusive. So what's before us right now is, I think, a broader engagement in April, and a sort of a report back in May, and then in May to June, a sort of a deeper dive with, I think, more focused groups, and then a report back in July with the idea that everything gets solidified in October, November, and then we start piloting a next generation leveled up community association / residents association / council of community groups. However this starts to come together in January of 2019. I'm super excited at where we're at, but I'm also super excited to take where we're at and engage communities. As you know, I believe all of those groups need to be able to come together and be supported by the city and be given the appropriate capacity and the appropriate level of decision making and the appropriate, support from the city. And we do so much in community. We need to have the best possible arrangement to do that. We have a very good one now, but it could be better, and that's what this work is about. So I'm excited about it. I look forward to the engagement. I look forward to people who are passionate about community in the city of Calgary coming out and talking about what our best possible future could be. And I expect in the next couple of months to have another sort of repeat of what the task force has gone through, which is some storming and then some norming, and then we move into what a best practice future could look like. Thank you so much, Councillor Gian-Carlo, representing the hope of great neighborhoods, signing off.